What's good, you guys? You know who it is, man. It's your boy, Mr. Relentless Lex, and I'm back like I never left this mother. Yes, Sirski. Hello, somebody. All right, so, man, you guys, it says, P. Diddy jurors make faces while digesting juicy texts in the sex trafficking trial, bro. Now, this has been one of the most explicit sexual trials of all times in my lifetime that I've heard of. And it's like it's getting more crazier. That's the thing about it. It's getting worse before it get any better. But we're going to check this video out for today. Let's go.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So we have with us Elizabeth Milner, Law and Crimes in Court reporter, who is in court today for all of the dramatic testimony of Jane, alleged victim number 2 in this case. And Elizabeth, it's good to see you. I was saying, I think the theme of her testimony is trying to show reluctance, right? Expressing reluctance. That she did not want to engage in these sexual activities with Sean Combs, more specifically with other men in front of Sean Combs through a series of text messages, and there's voice notes. There's a lot to condense here, and also, as we were talking about, a lot of complicating factors. What were some of the highlights? What do you think are some of the points of her showing, or allegedly showing, she did not want to participate in these sexual activities, these hotel nights, these debauchery nights? What stood out to you?
Yeah, well, a lot of it stood out to me, and it was kind of a slow morning as far as just presenting these mountain of text messages.
Now, you know what? Before she get into her side of explaining the case with what she saw in the courtroom, I will say this, bro. She's been doing a terrific job as far as like covering the case day in and day out. So shout out to the Elizabeth Milner.
To not only the witness, so she could recall everything that she had spoken to with Sean Combs, but also for the jury to kind of understand where I think the prosecution was ultimately leading up to. So, for example, they were showing text exhibits from September 17th of 2023, where Jane was testifying how Diddy was kind of the only one making her perform for her at home, or for him at her home. And she said, I felt like he made such a big purchase, and this was something that I had to do. And that big purchase was her rent, which was about $10,000 a month, and how Diddy kept kind of throwing this in her face. And we see another text exhibit from that same time frame where Jane was saying, I wish we could go back to when we first started dating. I opened Pandora's box and can't close it. One night of fun turned into our entire relationship. I'm crying as I'm writing.
Now, one thing about it, I think, from my understanding, you guys help me out, but isn't it Jane? I think the internet somehow came up with Jane is 50 Cent's baby mother. I think her name is Daphne something. Even though she's going under the name of Jane, I think it's 50 Cent's baby mother.
This, then you see things like, or not you see, because again, we're not seeing these exhibits, so everything that I'm writing is just transcription from what the prosecution and the witness are kind of going over. So Diddy is replying, girl, stop, let's talk, and then he sends her an audio message, and then you hear Diddy kind of with this raspy voice where he's like, I'm sick in bed, the message that you sent me, what's the problem? We have an actual open relationship, what's the problem? And that Diddy never talked with Jane about her doing these hotel nights. In the particular audio message, when she was kind of telling him about her feelings as far as not doing it and throwing up after one particular hotel night or debauchery night or freak off party where it was supposed to be a sober party. And while that sounds very nice,
bro, throwing up, oh my God. So she was very, very uncomfortable, bro. She had every right to be, bro. She said sometimes she'll sleep with 3 and 4 sex workers. That's crazy, bro. And I think she said this one particular time they were sober. She was sober. Dang.
And genuine, she's explained that at this sober party that she had to have sex with 4 escorts, and between escort number 3 and escort number 4, she threw up. And then Diddy said, okay, well, it's all out of your system. Kind of let's go get back to it. And so we saw more text messages and in reference to one particular trip in September of 2023, where Diddy told her that he wanted to just take her to New York. They would spend some time together. Jane had thought that, okay, we are going to spend some time together. It's going to be a nice time. She was sending him places for them to go as far as restaurants to go to here in the city. But she was also kind of texting him some explicit things, such as, for example, Diddy was saying, okay, let's have a good time. Do you have your passport? And then Jane is responding, miss my pretty hard D. Yes, I have my passport, baby. you turned me on so crazy, can't wait. And Jane was saying that Diddy texted her on the flight, and at this point she got particularly upset because Diddy was asking her where Cabral is, and Cabral was one of the escorts that they used. And so Diddy, again, Jane thinking at the time,
bro, these escorts got some crazy names, bro. The Punisher, Cabral, that's crazy. That's funny.
she was flying over to New York for just spending time with her boyfriend, and she was saying that Diddy was wanting an entertainer for that night, or entertainment for movie night. And movie night wasn't going to AMC theaters.
You know what a movie night is.
But movie night was them watching their sexually explicit videos together and their recordings together of these freak off nights. And so Diddy was saying, Jane was saying, I just remember taking deep breaths and feeling disappointed and defeated. And so Jane responded in this particular message, just got to Wi-Fi again, not sure baby, in response to whether or not Cabral could fly into New York, because Cabral was somebody that was that resided in Atlanta. And so Diddy said, check red phone. Okay, I have a surprise if that's okay, and just one. And so Jane was saying that Diddy was going to introduce her to someone new. And so that she said that she hated it. She hated this entire concept, and she's getting pretty emotional while she's on the witness stand, kind of recalling that, again, she thought that the two were just going to go for a date night. She was going to enjoy her trip to New York City, and then it ended up being another situation where she had to participate in a hotel night. And so Diddy said, sending picture now, and that picture being of an escort, or a picture actually that came from somebody at Cowboys for Angels. And Jane was responding, it's not loading, about to land now. And then Jane texted Diddy the places that they could go for dinner, and she was like, I just really wanted to have dinner with him. And so then you see some text messages from September 18th of 2023 from Jane and Cabral, because Jane was explaining that an escort was coming over to the hotel, and she didn't like this particular escort, so she ended up sending a message over to Cabral. And we hear about these messages where Jane is saying, hey, you want to come to NYC for a day? And Cabral said, yes, I would love to, love. And then Jane says, okay, let me set it up now. Cabral sent all his information to her, and then Cabral ended up coming to the Trump Hotel for another hotel night. And again, these are messages from 2023, so fairly pretty recently. But as far as just the lead up to it, and Jane was explaining how Cabral landed, they ended up doing a hotel night, even though she didn't want to do a hotel night. And I think what the prosecution there was kind of sprinkling in that this was sex trafficking by fraud, or at least transportation to engage in prostitution, because she is flying out this entertainer, as she calls him, from it.
Yeah, now that is sex trafficking. Wow. At first I was like, I didn't see that. Well, the racketeering and the sex trafficking, I was like, maybe Diddy was just one freaky somebody, but that is, they flying them out, they having sex, and they're paying them for it. Wow.
Atlanta to New York City.
Wow.
And then they do a hotel night, and then they slowly start to get into the text messages from October, later into November. And what happens in November of 2023, as many of us who have been following this case day in and day out know, is when Cassie dropped her jaw-dropping lawsuit. So in terms of just Jane kind of explaining Cassie's lawsuit while she was on the stand, she was also getting kind of emotional there too, kind of explaining how there were 3 particular pages in her 35-page complaint or so that really stood out to Jane, because she felt like she was just recalling her entire story. And so we did see a lot of messages this morning, and then we were slowly kind of getting into the Cassie aspect of it. But it was just interesting the way I think the prosecution was kind of laying this out, and then we're kind of like, okay, well, where is this going after we're seeing these same messages? But then we finally got to the destination I think the prosecution wanted to go to, and it seems like it'll pick up from there after the lunch break.
A lot of points I want to mention to this. So the big thing we're taking away, it seemed to me this was a bombshell. There is at least one message where she basically expressed to Sean Combs that she was consenting. That she goes, I know I was consenting, like I say on tape. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so
I'm going to allow, this is called me filibustering. Because Elizabeth takes incredible notes. And there's so much activity happening in that courtroom. So this was actually towards, I think maybe in the last hour or so, it actually stopped me when I was reading this, because it's all about, was this consenting? Was this all consensual? And it seems the prosecution, they had to fix this up a little bit. So talk to us about the circumstances of this message and what the prosecution asked Jane about it. And where, I mean, there's one thing to read it in the transcript. How did the jurors respond to this?
Yeah, so Jane was kind of explaining this after what had happened at this sobriety party. And again, this was essentially an orgy where Jane had to perform with various different men, about 4 different escorts. And even between escort 3 and 4, like I had just mentioned, that she had gotten sick. She got nauseous. She threw up during this. And Diddy kind of told her to keep on going. And so she was explaining that after this party that she had, she got a UTI from this. She said that she was having PTSD from these sex nights. She was feeling very triggered around this time period, because around this time it was October, so a couple weeks before Kelsey's lawsuit came out, and that Diddy would just kind of throw it back in her face that she booked the escorts too, something that she admitted while even on the stand, and that Jane was explaining that she had told Diddy that he had placed these harmful men onto her, and she said and then Diddy had said to her, talk to God, I'm going to pray for you. You're burning a bridge you aren't prepared to pay for, insinuating that he was kind of paying her rent. That's what she interpreted it to be. And so Jane said in the text message that she knew that she was consenting on the tape, but she said that she was uncomfortable, but she kept doing it because she loved him. And she said that she knew that she appeared to be excited, and that Diddy would throw it in her face that she appeared to be excited on these particular tapes. But according to her, she said she was really uncomfortable. And even at points, Jesse, while she's testifying, I feel like just the entire grasp of it all, she's really kind of processing it, even processing it to this day. And again, these messages from around 2023. And so Jane kind of wrote in her notes app, which she sometimes would kind of copy and paste, send them in a text message form, about her feelings about doing these hotel nights. So Jane wrote in her notes, for once today, I thought you were compassionate about this trauma. You have thousands of videos of me. I have PTSD. I'm feeling violated. And that Jane ended up...
Bro, I wanted to... She said, Diddy, she said, you have thousands of videos of me, bro. I'm hoping that she's using the word thousands loosely. If you had sex over 1,000 times, bro, I'm hoping she's using that terminology loosely. There's no way he got 1,000 videos of her, bro.
Ended up seeing Diddy in person.
But with all that body, all that baby, all, there's no telling. There is no damn telling what did it.
Comforted her at his Bel Air hotel. And so then Jane was explaining that there was an exhibit that was shown, again, that we can't see, but the jury saw it, the witness saw it, and the parties on both sides saw it. And Jane was explaining, in this moment, I felt supported by Sean, because it was a photo of her and Sean Combs together. She said that he understood me in this moment, and it was one of my favorite moments. And then afterwards, the two ended up spending time together. There was no drugs. It was just the two of them. But then Jane said that she was feeling anxious about Diddy's upcoming birthday, because when that note was sent, it's late October. And as we've been following this case, we now know Diddy's birthday, of course, to be November 4th. And so kind of leading up to this, she was saying that she was feeling anxious because she felt like she might have to possibly perform in another hotel night or debauchery night. But what she ended up doing was what she ended up doing was spending the night at home by herself, because Diddy ended up spending that birthday with his family. But I think what's interesting, and I think this might be a point that the defense will kind of talk to her about whenever they get that time to cross-examine her, was that during this particular birthday that Jane got Diddy a mobile television, and this mobile television was so that way he could watch their videos together, their sexually explicit videos together. And she said that this television could suffice as entertainment for her, for Diddy. And so then that's when we start to kind of get into Cassie's lawsuit. But as far as just her saying that she consented on these tapes and told Diddy this, I definitely think it's a point the defense will pick apart whenever they do have that time to cross-examine her. So it's pretty conflicting. And as far as the jurors kind of watching all of this, I did see jurors, because we did have a different seating switch up, I should say. And we sat on a different side, so we get more of a view of the jury. And I feel like at times the jurors were kind of like, okay, this is another text. I'm seeing them really kind of intently like look at the exhibit screen right in front of them. And so they were just kind of, from what I could see, really just digesting all of this testimony. Of course, there were, I think sometimes I did see one juror kind of making a face, and I'm not sure if that was at the sexually explicit stuff that she was sending him or that he was sending to her. But for the most part, from what I saw, they were definitely overanalyzing these text messages, or not overanalyzing, but at least digesting them and really kind of interpreting them for their own mind.
And I'm curious how Diddy's behaving, because we know last week he was scolded by the judge for allegedly nodding at the jurors during a key piece of cross-examination. There were reports that he went up to the sketch artist and complained because he felt that the sketch artist, and we're showing these sketches, or part of the sketches, make him look like a koala. By the way, we put up a poll, And we asked our viewers, what do you think?
Wow, bro.
Definitely a koala or don't see it. Sorry, not making a lie. 55% don't see it. They don't see a koala. But how has he been reacting during the course of what is, important testimony and arguably points of the testimony that may help his case?
Yeah, from what I saw of him, he definitely isn't doing that thing where he's looking at the jurors, he's nodding along, because also the prosecution is giving this line of questioning right now. It's not his defense attorney, so it might switch up when the cross-examination begins, but possibly not also because of what the judge had told him last week. But as far as even the jury entering and exiting the courtroom, either for a break or for the lunch break, as we saw just a few minutes ago, it's a little bit different. Before, he would kind of turn around, watch them all go off of their seats, but this time I really saw him just laser focused on the judge or just straight up looking down. So I think trying not to make eye contact. I don't think he wanted to get in the judge's crosshair, not one bit. Now, as far as the koala thing goes, I have to say there was this time where I did see Diddy talking to Jane last week, and I did see him kind of doing this. And I think as far as the koala goes, I think it was really kind of like talking about playing up the beard just a little bit as far as what you could see inside those drawings, because it is pretty cool to see Jane kind of in her work really kind of drawing everything piece by piece. Sometimes in testimony when like it gets a little redundant, I am kind of looking off to her to see how this is all coming along. And so it seems like, yes, Jane Rosenberg, and she does a great job. She does a fantastic job, and she really is very diligent when she's putting her court sketches together.
Okay, we have a question for you, Elizabeth, from one of our viewers, Tamara Tredkowski. Apologies if I mispronounced your last name. Elizabeth, were any potential upcoming witnesses mentioned today?
Wow.
Unfortunately not. From what they tell us, and they being the prosecution, they say that they're still going to continue with Jane's testimony at least till the end of the day. Then we'll have the cross-examination for Jane. But the thing about Jane is she has to be off the stand by Thursday evening because she has a flight to catch, because she is going, I guess, on this trip internationally, either for business or for something else. But as far as just who we can expect for the next witness, they've been keeping pretty mum on that. I'm hoping they'll tell us at least at the end of the day today who that next witness may possibly be, but for right now they've been pretty tight-lipped about it so far.
Have they mentioned, I thought I read something, is there a conversation about recalling Dr. Dawn Hughes, an important witness, to maybe explain some of the behavior of these alleged victims, which the prosecution might need? There's been a lot of witnesses since her testimony who, texted Sean Combs loving messages, posting loving messages, seemed to act in ways that were contradictory to being abused. You're listening to the complicated testimony of Jane, who, again, was in a relationship with Sean Combs up until his arrest, apparently still paying her rent. And these issues of was she a willing participant or not. Anything about whether Dr. Dawn Hughes is going to take the stand again?
So the prosecution did file a motion to recall Dr. Dawn Hughes. However, the defense has yet to respond to that motion. And so the judge said, okay, the defense, you want to take until end of day to respond to this. He's totally fine with it. So the discussion hasn't happened on whether or not this will actually happen, that being Dr. Dawn Hughes being recalled to testify. But it seems like it is something the prosecution wants. We're just waiting to hear what the defense has in their filing about obviously opposing to that. But it's interesting, if Dr. Dawn Hughes was to retestify, will we see Jonathan Bach again? We have not seen him since he cross-examined Dr. Dawn Hughes a couple weeks ago. So maybe it'll be exciting for him to come back, but we'll kind of wait and see what the judge has to say and what the defense even has to say in their response.
Also, got a question from RSS. Real quick, Elizabeth. What went on with this mistrial situation? Didn't the defense file for a motion for a mistrial? I think it had to do with what they believe is false, perjured testimony of some of the witnesses, right?
Yeah, so it all has to do with Bonna's testimony, and the defense during Bonna's cross-examination was kind of like, okay, Diddy wasn't even in that side of the country when this allegedly happened, and you say that Diddy dangled you off a balcony on the 26th. We have this receipt showing that he was actually at the Trump Hotel here in New York during, I think it was the 24th of September to the, I think, 26th of September of that year, or just a couple days. It might be takeaway here or there. But the defense did file a motion for a mistrial, or renewed motion for a mistrial, over the weekend. And so I was expecting some arguments about it this morning, but another diversion yet again, because the government has to respond to the defense's motion for a mistrial. Obviously, they're going to oppose it. And so business just kind of continued on as usual this morning. There was a little moment this morning where the judge was like, can I speak to both lead counsel in our chambers? And we thought maybe it's a jury issue. We didn't know kind of what was going on. And then again, they just went to business as usual. From what I saw of all the jurors today, they were all there. And so as far as the first question, the motion for a mistrial, the government will respond to that today. Yep. And so we could hear arguments about it possibly tomorrow.
All right.
Oh, wow, bro. Wow. Diddy might be on to something, man. Tomorrow, he's trying to file for a mistrial already. Man, he might be on to something, you guys. He's starting to make little jokes with the sketch artists in the courtroom. He's feeling pretty good now. The defense team probably telling him a lot of things that he want to hear. To me, it sounds like everybody was consenting to doing it. Whether it was sex trafficking or not, everybody was consenting. And then Jane, she was, Diddy say, look, you was calling the escorts yourself. Now, I wasn't really calling them. You was lining them up. Wow, that's crazy. But I can't wait till tomorrow to see what everything plays out to be. That's just crazy. I promise you, though.